The subject of today's Lean In video is looking back. I've just been having a really interesting conversation with a business colleague of mine and talking about looking back. And really what we're saying there is that at the end of this pandemic, when COVID-19 not is over, but perhaps when things have returned to some form of normality, we'll be looking back, of course, won't we? And I think we'll be looking back at some of the things that have been going on, and I'm hoping that we don't get drawn into what I call the victim mentality. You know, do you remember how bad it was, and, all the bad things that happened and how our businesses suffered and so on and so forth. And I thought at the very least this morning, I wanted to give some encouragement to say, well, if we're looking forward as we should be now, what can we do to improve our businesses? What can we do to insulate ourselves as much as possible from the effects of the pandemic? That would be a much more positive approach. Because hopefully at some stage in the future when we're looking back, we can say, well, do you remember when we did those good things? Do you remember when we did those constructive things? Do you remember when we changed the way that we did businesses so that actually we could not just survive, but thrive in our businesses? And that to me is a much more positive way of looking back at some stage in the future at the effects of the pandemic and COVID-19. So I think that's my encouragement for today. Don't be thinking what happens when I'm looking back in the future at all the bad things that went on that came out of COVID and lockdown, etc. Think about looking back at all the good things that happened and the good things that we made happen as a result of the things that we did within our businesses. And that starts now. In other words, what are we doing now, today, tomorrow, this week, which could have a positive effect on our businesses, and really following through and taking action, rather than still being a sort of victim mentality and thinking, it's a bad place that we're in right now, the pandemic's here, what are we going to do? I think it's thinking about looking forward to the things we can now do that are going to have a positive effect on our businesses, rather than at some stage in the future looking back at all the bad things that went on and the influence we didn't have on our business. So I say, that's my encouragement for today to all entrepreneurs and business people out there to say, what can we do today, tomorrow, this week, which are things that are designed to increase the profitability of our businesses? What can we do to increase our incomes rather than being in an unfortunate situation at some stage in the future and looking back and thinking about the negativity that went on? Anyway, just a thought. I hope that helps.